Mr. Alok Dhir is the founder and managing partner of Dhir Associates, a full-service law firm which is rated as one of the top insolvency law firms in India and was the first firm to have launched ESG practice desk in India. He's a qualified chartered accountant and a lawyer and has been practicing law since 1983.
So, Ms. Cherie, Blair, Adam, Kalindi, Girish, Neeti, Lakshika, Sonal, our esteemed panelists, and the participants in the first virtual legal marathon, a very warm welcome to you. And I take this opportunity to welcoming you and wish you all a very good afternoon. It's indeed a proud moment for us at Dhir to organize this event with an effort to draw focus of our industry and business leaders to ESG concerns and impact on our business environment and collective society. Dhir is a full-service law firm, offices in Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, and Japan. Over the last 27 years, we've been providing legal services on litigation, arbitration, mediation, corporate advisory, M&A, insolvency and bankruptcy, telecom, corporate governance, etc., to top corporate entities in India and abroad. We have seen, and when we reflect upon it, we've seen businesses being focused on growth of top lines and profitability at any cost. That's what we've been noticing. There has been a race amongst these businesses to grow, to acquire, to profit. And in this race, they have exploited the environment. They have exploited human resources, followed all sorts of corporate practices and governance, verily with a very narrow objective to make profits and create wealth. The results are that in merely a generation, we have seen degradation, and I'm talking about India. In just one generation, we've seen enormous degradation of the environment at a very increasingly fast rate. The global warming, tsunamis, wildfires have devastated large land masses, and the exploitation and extinction of our, I would say, fellow flora, fauna inhabiting the world. Exploitation of the workmen, child labor, human slavery, human trafficking, burnout of young professionals at very young age, they are there for all to see. The earth, heavens, and sea have borne the brunt of this exploitive regime. Our air is polluted, it is getting toxic, we can't breathe, ozone layers are depleting, vast lands are laid waste, unsustainable agricultural policies, soil degradation, forest cover is depleting, flora and fauna are becoming extinct, and even the sea has not been spared. The ecological balance of the seas have also been disturbed. We have been doing mindless fishing, water spills, oil spills, solid waste, everything has gone into the sea as well. So amidst this rapacious approach of profiteering, concerns of sustaining the environment for future generations keep cropping up. Against this backdrop, our industry has to transform. Thinkers, scientists, environmentalists, champions of human rights have been ringing an alarm bell. The planet cannot take anymore. As we recklessly move in pursuit of our profiteering goals, we are perhaps close to the tipping point beyond which it may not be even possible to salvage life. We owe a responsibility to our young, new generation of humans and other fellow flora and fauna who to live in harmony, in a balance on this Mother Earth, which actually belongs to all of us. In this background, the ESG has becoming increasingly important. ESG is not just an acronym for environmental, social, and governance. The three words ESG, in my mind, are sentinels, which are the conscience keepers and stand between us as a human race and complete devastation. A new era of business that no longer accepts running business just for profit is emerging. ESG is a catalyst for environmental transformation. And that is the real meaning of ESG as I see it. It has become increasingly important to generate awareness of the impact of our activities on environment, to monitor, calibrate the exploitation of resources and move to a more sustainable model of managing resources and not merely grabbing what we can. It has taken eons to create these resources and they cannot be generated in a lifetime. Very interestingly, at this point, as we all know, there was this advertisement for salt where they said that Ramdev Baba has gone to the mountain to get the rock salt, which is 25 million years old. 25 million years old. And what do? We just grab it and bring it out. And at a point of time, we are continuously depleting resources like this. We have to learn to utilize our resources maturely, with responsibility, and focus on setting a new cycle in motion for reprocessing, recovery of the resources, reutilization of these resources, rather than continuously exploiting them. We have to learn to respect human life and human rights, and more importantly, governance. We have to set up standards of responsible governance and to learn to live with them. Governance, to my mind, is like an ankush. It's a self-control, and it determines policies and principles which will help save our environment and alleviate human suffering. It's a time to take action. Against the backdrop of global transformation, standing by and doing nothing is not an option. We all have a role to play. Fortunately, we are in the midst of a tectonic shift in the thinking of business leaders who are now focusing more on responsible business practices. Now, a company to be successful is not merely that they should deliver attractive returns, but they should also make a positive environmental impact in equal measure. Investment leaders are transitioning their portfolios to carbon neutral investments, deploying capital with a purpose, and ultimately to create a better world. Sustainable investing is a catchphrase, and financial markets across the world are looking to sustainable investments. You may be all aware that in, I would only say 1920, because 2021 has been a washout, not only for us, but the rest of the world. More than $100 billion of green bonds were issued. All of this is reflective of the change. Now we are seeing newer technologies emerging like IA and automation, and there is a shift that we see which is taking place. Let's say, for example, as against animal protein to plant-based protein, which is to generate a sustainable food system. The change in the power sector, energy sector has been remarkable. We now generate more gigabytes of solar, wind, and water energy than the traditional thermal. Our business leaders are redefining and rediscovering the purpose of industry is to positively contribute to the development of countries in which they operate. And happy to say, India is at the forefront of this transformational change. As I mentioned earlier, SEBI has announced the new reporting formats for the top 1,000 listed companies pertaining to sustainable reporting, with disclosures which are focused on ESG parameters. While it is voluntary in the year 2021, in 2022, it is going to become mandatory. India has, during this period, been a signatory to various treaties. UN Sustainable Development Goals is one, Paris Climate Change is another. And recently, our Prime Minister, say with pride, was given the Global Energy and Environment Leadership Award by the Cambridge Energy Research Association. India has also in 2020 hosted a convention on biological diversity. I know that there are very experienced lists of panelists, and I don't want to keep my participants from them. But I'll end with a word to our young participants in this event. It's a tradition in India to light a lamp at such important events. Light dispels darkness. We hope that the light that is lit will lighten up the heart, soul, and mind of our young participants for protecting and preservation of the three sentinels of ESG and provide a better life to us and our future generations. We need you all youngsters to become the ESG warriors to ensure that the principles of ESG are recognized, respected, and acted upon. Because without this Ankush, we will not be able to leave this world as a better place to live in for our future generations. Thank you so much.
So we won't take time, and the next person is a legal stalwart again, known globally very much, and we would be really looking forward to hearing her. She's no one else other than Mrs. Cherie Blair, QC, co-founder and chair of Omnia Strategy LLP. Cherie Blair, CB Queen's Counsel, is the founder and chair of Omnia Strategy LLP, preeminent human rights counsel, and wife of former British Prime Minister, Mr. Tony Blair. So I won't take more time.
Hello, and it's a pleasure to join our friend Alok Dhir in welcoming you to this timely session dedicated to ESG trends and issues in India. Our aim is to highlight and participate in one of the defining transitions of our time, harnessing the power of the private sector to drive positive change for our society and planet, and building effective systems to deliver good corporate governance and accountability. I would like to express my gratitude to Dhir and Dhir for inviting Omnia Strategy to take part, to thank you all for taking the time to join us and share your insights, hopes and challenges, and to wish you all a productive session. To the students taking part in the 24-hour Research Lab Marathon, I commend the perspectives, passion and purpose, not least the stamina, that you are bringing to this important endeavour. While we, of course, look forward to your future leadership, we all know that the time for action is now, and we welcome your vital contribution now. Let me also express my solidarity with everyone in India as you endure this especially difficult time. While I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to meet remotely, even while continuing to tackle this awful pandemic, I look forward to returning to India and seeing some of you in person before too long. It's not difficult to find good reasons to travel to India, as well as your country's beauty, heritage and culture, and your geopolitical and economic importance, Omnia's strategy is a member of the Indian government's panel for investor-state disputes. In fact, earlier this year, we hosted a 3-day online training course for Indian state advocates on international arbitration, a topic close to the heart of our esteemed panellist, Niti Sachdeva. We are glad to be working with Dhir and with corporates and other stakeholders in India who recognise the importance of ESG advice, representation and action. So it's fair to say India is very much on my mind. We have a fantastic panel of experts ready to explore some of the key trends, risks and opportunities in this area. Now, it's my pleasure to share a couple of reflections based on 45 years of advising, representing and observing in this field. First, recourse to human rights is transforming from the preserve of a few eccentrics like me to a mainstream foundation of legal policy, analysis and advocacy. There's never been a greater awareness of human suffering and the scale, pace and effects of environmental degradation. We also know more about the myriad ways in which we contribute to these harms through our choices as governments, businesses, investors, consumers and more. COVID-19 continued to show how we may all be in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. That we must build back better has been a key refrain of the last year. We also face a crisis of trust in institutions and experts. Trust in the conventional information sources is at a record low, and trust in all sectors assessed has declined. This has roots in the failure to share the values created by globalization, to address sustainability challenges, and to tackle other societal problems with collaboration and honesty. Work is underway to realign our economic system towards stakeholder capitalism. Human rights is becoming a lodestar for policy, a normative framework for business strategy, a tool for legislation, and a standard for resolving sensitive disputes. Against this backdrop, it's very good to see the offering from Lex Witness, our sponsor, and its focus on ESG in particular. Second, we are witnessing an explosion in new human rights obligations on business. As well as observing World Environment Day in 2 days' time, this month we mark the 10th anniversary of the unanimous endorsement by the UN Human Rights Council on the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. The UNGPs outlined the corporate responsibility to respect human rights. Put simply, businesses should avoid causing or contributing to adverse human rights impacts, and should seek to prevent or mitigate such harms to which they are directly linked. They should also play their part in ensuring victims have access to an effective remedy. Leading companies have made strides in embedding respect for human rights into their policies, practices and decision-making, and speaking out against some affronts to human dignity. But many have not, and voluntary initiatives have failed to move the needle. As a result, we're now witnessing an extraordinary flurry of developments in this area, including industry standard setting, shareholder activism, court rulings, and major legislative initiatives at EU level that could be a game changer worldwide, including for Indian businesses. But, let us be clear, this is and must be a global movement. Without doubt, it will both affect and be propelled by policymakers, enterprises and civil society in India. Indeed, the Indian government initiated the process of preparing its own National Action Plan, or NAP, on business and human rights in December 2018, when it released a zero draft in which it stated, "The vision of India's NAP stems from the Gandhian principle of trusteeship that defines the purpose of business is to serve all stakeholders." We will hear from Girish Joshi about the steps taken recently by the Bombay Stock Exchange as well as from leading lights within SAP and Capgemini regarding the response from businesses and plans for the future. We must also accept that as well as the opportunities to strengthen our business and manage their impacts on society, these times of ever-increasing scrutiny mean greater legal risks for Indian companies. To give one example, only 2 years ago, Anglo-Indian company Vedanta was in the headlines. The UK Supreme Court found in a landmark ruling that the English courts could hear a legal claim against the company and its Zambian subsidiary for alleged environmental damage in Zambia. I'm proud to say that Omnia was involved in that seminal case, and when I was in court, it was clear to me that our most senior judges were keenly interested to understand and apply the developing normative framework governing corporate responsibility for human rights harms. Vedanta settled this case out of court, and we have seen and will undoubtedly see more of these type of cases. After all, the law is a tool of social reform, and the calls for change grow louder day by day. This is an incredibly rich dialogue internationally amidst a fast evolving legal and commercial landscape. It is encouraging that this session, focusing on ESG in India, has drawn such interest. We look forward to continuing the conversation in the months and years to come. And now, thank you and enjoy the session.